Well, while we continue to track reaction this morning over Jody Wilson-Raybauld's expulsion from the Liberal caucus, we're also learning more now about how those inside the Prime Minister's office saw the affair from the very beginning. Text messages exchanged between Wilson-Raybould and Gerald Butts, then Justin Trudeau's former top advisor, are now public, and they give us an inside look into the 6-week period leading up to her being shuffled out as Attorney General. Our David Cochrane takes us through those documents and what is in them and what is not.
At the heart of Jody Wilson-Raybauld's story is that she lost her job as Attorney General because of SNC-Lavalin.
That I stated I believe the reason was because of the SNC matter. They denied this to be the case.
I firmly believe that nothing inappropriate occurred here, and nothing inappropriate was alleged to have occurred until after the cabinet shuffle.
Jerry Butts sent notes and text messages to the Justice Committee to bolster his claim. Text related to a December 5th meeting where their testimony is at odds.
Minister Wilson-Raybould solicited the meeting with me. She also raised the subject with me.
I wanted to speak about a number of things, including bringing up SNC and the barrage of people hounding me and my staff.
We parted that meeting as friends and colleagues and exchanged personal text messages a couple of hours later. I wrote, "Nice to see you." She replied, "Nice to see you too. Thanks for the convo. Please say hello to the PM."
The texts from that night are as Butts said. No obvious signs of tension, no mention of SNC. A follow-up text from Wilson-Raybould on December 11th doesn't mention it either. On January 7th, the Prime Minister called Wilson-Raybould on vacation in Bali to discuss the cabinet shuffle. Butts listened in and took notes. "I feel I'm being shifted out of justice for other reasons," Butts quotes her as saying. "We would not be doing this if it weren't for Scott's decision," Trudeau replies, referring to Scott Bryson's resignation from cabinet. "I don't agree," she replied. "That's not how we change people's lives." There's no mention of SNC in Butts' notes or in the text exchange that followed, though Wilson-Raybould raised objections. At the time, Indigenous protesters were blocking a gas pipeline. She raised this, not SNC. "Pushing me out, which will be the perception whether true or not, is terrible. It will be confounding and perplexing to people. This is not about me. This is about an approach to Indigenous peoples." The bulk of the text show the minister and Butts trying to connect across multiple time zones. The tone seems cordial, but on January 12th, it changes. "What is being proposed is a mistake," she texts. "There is no way to fully explain this. My eyes are wide open on this shift." The night before the shuffle, she follows up. "No, I will be prepared for tomorrow, and I know why this is happening." Butts replies, "Yes, you do, because the PM told you why this is happening. We plan on saying the truth. Scott's departure left a large hole." At no point in these text exchanges does she directly mention SNC or a DPA, two things Ottawa hasn't stopped talking about since. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, meanwhile, an SNC insider has brought forward new allegations about the engineering giant this morning. CBC News has learned that a federal agency which loans money to Canadian companies is investigating whether any of the billions borrowed by SNC-Lavalin went towards paying bribes. Now, if true, it means taxpayers may have unwittingly backed illicit payments. Let's bring in Dave Seglins. He has been leading CBC coverage on the SNC-Lavalin file, and he is here to break this one down for us today. So, Dave, tell us about this insider and what is being said here.
So this is somebody who worked with SNC projects that were backed by EDC on several circumstances. EDC was a lifeline for SNC-Lavalin around the world when they were looking for financing to build dams, power plants, road construction, massive construction projects. It took, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in some circumstances. What this insider is alleging is that in SNC-Lavalin's applications to the federal agency, hidden in there were funds that were slush funds. They listed them as technical fees, according to this insider, but really the money was intended to be paid overseas to agents on the ground, some of that money intended for bribes to help SNC-Lavalin win these contracts. That is the insider's allegation. And what's more, this insider, who we are not naming because they fear they could lose their job, alleges that EDC signed off on this either knowingly or unwittingly, but certainly not detecting the destination for this money.
And EDC being Export Development Canada. So what are we hearing from SNC and EDC at this point? What are they saying about this?
SNC-Lavalin has said no comment to a series of questions on this story. EDC insists emphatically that they would never knowingly participate in any kind of deal that was tainted by bribery or corruption. They say, look, they have due diligence, they do monitoring of their deals, including ones with SNC-Lavalin. They do note, however, that it's known in the construction business that it can be easy, or these agent fees that are used are vehicles that have been known to be abused in the past that could be used for this kind of payment, but they would never knowingly proceed. They have launched an investigation, a review they call it. They've hired external legal counsel to look at one project in Africa where the insider has alleged that there was something improper going on, and based on that, EDC could expand the scope of their investigation.
What does this mean for taxpayers?
Well, the implication here is that there's a federal agency giving money that could be used for bribes, and Export Development Canada has provided upwards of $4.7 billion to SNC-Lavalin in loans and guarantees over the last 25 years. We put this very question, what is the implication of this, to a watchdog who has monitored EDC's funding of Canadian business abroad. Here's what she said.
It means that we're implicated. It means that our tax dollars have been used to pay bribes. And bribery is a wicked thing. And corruption is a terrible thing for an economy.
That is, if true. Not proven. EDC is going to look into this Africa project, and depending on that, could expand the scope of their investigation.
Dave Seglins, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you can read more on Dave's investigation into SNC-Lavalin and Export Development Canada. You can do so online. The story is on our website at CBCNews.ca.